How's it going, everybody? We are back for the wild card round of NFL. 4 games on tap this weekend on DraftKings.com. You can still win a ton of money. They got the $2 million tournament with $250,000 to first $20 entry fee and tournaments up and down. All over the price point map, all over the menu. Whatever you want to order, you can order and get involved however you want to get involved. We're going to take a first look at this slate, breaking down kind of position by position who I like. It's not a final look. This is not a for-use lineup, not something that you really need to plug and play here because information is going to change. Lineups lock on Saturday this week in the middle of the afternoon, and right now it is Tuesday morning, and we have to try and figure out what we're going to do on this slate, who we like, who we don't. We're going to start at quarterback. Let's just get right to it. Usually I like to pay down at quarterback, as you guys know, but this is a shorter slate, and we have to kind of do things a little bit differently. If you've been here for all of these shows throughout the season, thank you very much. If you're new, and this is your first video that you've watched of mine on YouTube, please click that subscribe button. Let's see how many likes we can get on this before the weekend, before the playoffs actually start. You guys have been tremendous with the support of this channel. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers. We were at like 100 subscribers literally like 3 months ago. So the growth has been tremendous, and it's all thanks to you guys. So appreciate all the support and continued support with NFL and going into NBA season. So quarterbacks, right? Everybody seems bunched up this week. We don't have a wide range of players. The only guy that's under, there's 2 guys that are under 6K, and it's Marcus Mariota, and it's Tyrod Taylor. I don't know that I want to play Tyrod Taylor. There's not much upside. He is 4,700. He is averaging about what we need from him to reach value, but he's playing against Jacksonville, who's the absolute, in my opinion, best defense in the league. We could see a 9-point fantasy day here from Tyrod. This could just be a slow, sluggo game. It's not expected to have a lot of scoring. It has the lowest total of the week, and the team total for the Bills is the lowest of all the teams on the slate. I like to attack teams with higher team totals because that's where the scoring usually is, and I like to pick quarterbacks on teams that have higher team totals. So for me, I think Tyrod is nothing more than like a GPP play to try and smash in one extra guy into your lineup that you may not be able to afford otherwise. But I don't think that we need to go that low to get him. Mariota's been disappointing this year. One of my favorite quarterbacks the last couple of years for daily fantasy, as he's had a great expectation of possibly getting you 25 or 30 or more points. He really has not done that this year. He has not done that this year. LA Party. MYK Graham, thank you very much for the 2 months in a row with the Twitch Prime sub. We'll get to that off the recording. We'll talk about it. We'll see if we can get there. Don't know if we can or not. It's just really a busy month. So he has not had those 25-plus point games this year. It's just not who he's been in this offense. It's an offense that should have been spectacular with all the pieces that they added. They've gotten ridiculously conservative. They haven't let him throw. Maybe it's because of his injury. He hasn't been as willing to run, though he did run it 10 times in their last game against Jacksonville, which Jacksonville kind of forces that with the amount of pressure that they get. But look, 3, 2, 2, 3. He's just not doing the things that we need him to do, and at 5,500 I think he's also a big risk. There is big reward because he's still Marcus Mariota, and they may just unleash him for this playoff game knowing that they're going to have to do something and they might have to chase. But Kansas City is a bit too far of a bridge to cross for me, which leaves me with the 6K quarterbacks. Matt Ryan against the Rams, don't like to pick on the Rams. Blake Bortles, I think, will have a pretty good game, but I don't really want to pick on Buffalo either. Alex Smith in Kansas City looks to me to be one of the best quarterbacks in the slate. Drew Brees for New Orleans, just not throwing it all that much against Carolina, even at home. This is a run-first offense. Most of the fantasy points accrued come from Kamara and come from Ingram. We'll get to them in just a minute. Cam Newton up and down and has not had great games against New Orleans this year, even though they have been a team that we've targeted against him in the past. Jared Goff, this does look like a good week for Jared Goff if we want to pay up, but I'm going to come down to Alex Smith. I like Jared Goff a lot. I think he posts a really good game, but based on the roster construction that I think I want to build, I'm going to start with Alex Smith. Yikes. Alex Smith is my quarterback right now. In terms of running backs, volume is key. Mark Ingram is 6,900. Nice. Why is he this cheap? I want to see if I can fit him in there. It is a tough defense against Carolina. He has not seen the volume that we thought he'd see, where he'd be the 19 to 20 carry guy. He's kind of splitting with Kamara now. They're 13, 13, 12, 12. And let's look at Kamara. 9, 9, 12, 12. There is, and this is the game against Atlanta where he was concussed and he came out. Essentially, they're seeing the same volume, but Kamara's 8,600 and Ingram's 6,900. And it's not like Kamara's taken over as like the primary guy. 7 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets. That's great. I love that. But let's not think that Ingram's not involved in the passing game. 4 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets. He's getting looks. At 6,900, he may be one of the better values on the slate. Buffalo's been the team that we've attacked with running backs all season long. We have Leonard Fournette back. If he's playing, he might be the guy that I want to go with this week. They're going to pound the hell out of him. But my cover boy, and for good reason, is Todd Gurley, the MVP of everything fantasy, the most improved player in daily fantasy, the most improved player in regular fantasy, possibly the most improved player in the league, possibly the NFL MVP, most definitely the fantasy MVP. He ran the ball essentially. He had as many touches this year as he had last year, but he ran for like 425 more yards this year than he did last year. Atlanta funnels catches. 2 running backs. So the floor is going to be there with his pass catching ability. We've seen him double bonus the last game that he was out there. He's coming off of a week of rest. He's at home in Los Angeles. There's good weather for this game. It should not be like snowy because it's Los Angeles. Todd Gurley is where I want to start, and I know that not a lot of people want to get up there. There is merit. There is merit to going Fournette Ingram, in my opinion. There is. But I want to see if I can get there with Fournette and Gurley. I want the home favored running backs on the teams that look to smash against other teams that are ill-equipped to stop them. You're not going to stop Gurley if you're Atlanta. If you stop the run, they're going to throw it to him. If you, if you let them score points, he's just going to keep pounding the ball. They're going to be able to move the ball against Atlanta, which means more goal line and red zone and inside the 10-yard line touches. Absolutely love Gurley this week. Going to wide receiver. There's a few guys that we can talk about. The first thing that popped out in my mind, it's like I was like, okay, there's no great wide receivers that I want to pay for. Julio Jones has kind of been up and down. He's been a disappointment. The Rams are a tough defense to go against, so he's made nothing more than a tournament play for me. Thomas has been somebody that I've loved this year. He's been on the wrong side of touchdown variance. That may change come the playoffs, and I think he makes a great pivot play off of guys like Ingram and Kamara, who are going to have high usage just like always. At 7,800, you're also going to pay up to be contrarian here. His ownership will never be all that high. So while I like Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill is 1,000 less on a slate with no real great wide receivers to lean on. He only gets you 6-7 targets a week, but you have to stop Hunt and you have to stop Kelsey, leaving Tyreek Hill in a spot where he can actually thrive and get looks down the field. 52-yard long, 64-yard long, 44-yard long, 79-yard long. 11, he had a bad game. 12 fantasy points. But if that's his floor right now, right? He doesn't catch a long pass, therefore he gets 12 fantasy points. That's not killing you on this slate. As much as it's weird to say it, I think Tyreek Hill's in play this week. Now, if you want to bring this back, because we have an Alex Smith, Tyreek Hill, let's look at who... Tennessee, Kansas City, right? So let's take the KC guys off the map. Rich Matthews, Richard, volume all over the place, right? And he's 4,900. Corey Davis hasn't made a big splash. Eric Decker, however, has seen an uptick in usage. 6 targets, 10 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets. Has not scored a touchdown with all that usage over the past 4 weeks. This guy is 3,500. Trending upward, is a good red zone look, should be chasing from behind against an inefficient defense at stopping opposing wide receivers. He is a bigger target than Rich Matthews. Yes, they've got other players that they have to focus on. They have to focus on stacking the line to stop Henry. They do have to, which they should be able to do. They should have to focus on Rashard Matthews over Decker. They're going to have to focus on Delaney Walker. I think Eric Decker is probably the best value play on the slate, at least for me, as we sit right now on Tuesday morning. It is about 10 a.m. Pacific time, Tuesday morning. As of right now, I love Eric Decker to open up some salary for me at 3,500. It's kind of crazy because he's looked old earlier in the season, but if he's going to get the amount of looks that he's getting over the past few weeks, there's just nothing else at the low end that makes me want to go for that. I mean, who are we going to play? Albert Wilson? Oh, look, he had 11 targets last week. Yeah. When they played their JV squad. Albert Wilson's definitely the best player they got on the JV squad. But now that they have Tyreek Hill back, now that Kelsey's back out there, Alex Smith, Hunt, they're not going to Albert Wilson outside of, 3, 4, 5 targets a game. And a big difference between all this here. He saw 8 against Miami. That's great. I'd rather take the touchdown upside from somebody like Eric Decker over Albert Wilson. Essentially the same play on volume, but Decker getting more red zone usage. Wilson's the number 2 wide receiver now. Not really. He's the number 2 wide receiver on the outside. Casey Wagner brings this up in the chat. He's the number 2 wide receiver based on the fact that he's starting. However, he's the number 3 or 4 guy in terms of target expectation behind Kelsey, then Hill, then Hunt. So, they're going to utilize those other guys. Wilson's going to get some, but not a lot. He's going to get the scraps. He's the Ramores swimming next to the shark. And maybe he gets a real tasty morsel and scores a touchdown. But I think that the expectation for him to get targeted in the red zone is much lower than somebody like Eric Decker. So I'm going to take the guy in Eric Decker that is going to be as involved or more than Albert Wilson in the pass game and be way more involved in the red zone should Tennessee get there. And we get the benefit in tournaments of running it back if we're going to go with a KC stack, getting somebody on the other side that's going to get dragged along if Kansas City does what they have to do. Looking at our third wide receiver. Looking for value here again. I mean, I think that there's some value in these Jacksonville guys, even though that there's a low expected team total. Marquise Lee, still questionable. He'll probably, I assume he's going to be back. Keelan Cole, 5,400. Allen Hurns, assume he's back. Dede Westbrook may be the guy who gets a ton of looks. 9 targets last week, only 1 catch. Price is the lowest of the 4. Right now, I think I kind of like Dede Westbrook. This could change by the time the weekend gets here. I might end up on somebody else, but Dede Westbrook giving me a sizable amount of targets, snaps, routes run in this game, or at least in this offense, and he's somebody that has more explosiveness than those other Jacksonville wide receivers. With that amount of volume, that target volume for 4,400, he's all right. There's other plays in that range that we could kind of end up on. We could come up to Allen Hurns at 4,600. Not going to come down there. Probably not going to have Benjamin against Jacksonville. I don't think he's all that good. We could go double value if you want to plug Wilson in there. There's just not all that much to love on this slate at wide receiver. Sammy Watkins at 5,100 if we can afford him. Wouldn't mind coming up to him against Atlanta. Ted Ginn Jr. probably going to avoid there. Keelan Cole, no. Sanu has been somebody who's gotten a lot of love as well. If you can afford him, fine. Moving on to tight end. There's 3 guys in my opinion. There's legitimately 3 dudes. Starting at the top, Travis Kelce. The premium prime tight end on the slate. The most points scored for a tight end this year. Second on average points per game on tight end behind only Gronk. You know that you're going to get target volume. You know that you're going to get red zone volume. You know that they're going to have to lean on him. Defense versus position. Yeah, Tennessee's a little bit worse, but really defense versus position outside of touchdown expectation. Not something I tend to look at with tight ends because not every team features their tight end, especially not the way Kansas City, New England, and Philly do. So Kelce's somebody, if you can afford him, I think he's more of a GPP play, not as much of a cash game play this week. Delaney Walker, I like, but I'm going to come down here to Charles Clay. Even though it's against Jacksonville, the targets are going to be there regardless because there's just nobody else to throw the ball to. 8 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets, 4K. We need 12 fantasy points out of him. If he scores 7.7 to 8 points, he's not killing you. Allows you to pay up for the other guys that you want. There is the upside if he happens to get himself into the end zone that he gets you 16 to 18 fantasy points, so he can smash value there. But on volume alone, he's been essentially paying off his salary and should continue to do so this week. I like him in that spot. We need a defense. Mariota's been inefficient, hasn't scored a ton of points. Probably playing without Murray again. The Rams at 2,700, probably your best value play on the week. Even though the Falcons have been good at scoring points, the Rams are really good at defending. The Chiefs at home, a much different defense at home than they are on the road. 9.9 fantasy points at home, 5.8 fantasy points on the road, something you have to pay attention to. I'm going to stuff the Rams in here just to get a little bit of extra value, giving me 5,200 to spend. Sammy Watkins has seen an uptick in targets recently. He is the biggest play threat on the Rams. Woods is good. Kupp is awesome as well. But if I want to load up on the Rams, if I think they're going to score 28 to 35 points like they've essentially been doing in a lot of weeks this season, Sammy Watkins gives me a good chance to get there. You can go double tight end with Delaney Walker if you want. Rashard Matthews if you really want to chase. Olsen against New Orleans. 9 targets, 6 targets, 12 targets. Another way that you can get to 2 tight ends if you feel like it in this lineup. Probably the higher floor option is Greg Olsen, but I'm going to shoot for the fences here. I'm going to swing for the fences and shoot for the moon with Sammy Watkins. That's going to do it for this first look lineup. Hopefully you guys can pay attention to the rest of the content that comes out over the week and we can find some value. If you want to pay down from Gurley and get down to somebody like Mark Ingram to allow yourself to pay up another $2,800 or $3K to get another stud wide receiver or tight end in your lineup, you can most certainly do that. This is my first look lineup for the wild card. If you're still watching on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe button. Let's see how many we can get on this video before lineups lock this Saturday, and we will catch up to you next week for the divisional round of the playoffs. So until then, bye everybody.